Good morning. Welcome back for another day. So just to get through, my morning prep today. Yesterday kind of played out as kind of was expected, right? You got that consolidation day, that balance day. Some of the information that we were given yesterday is the fact that we really just balanced out the upper half of Tuesday's late spike, which it wasn't a true spike, but nonetheless, late move up. That M period recovered, and then we pretty much just spent our time balancing the upper half of Tuesday's profile. We came in, held that 25, 28 area, and then spent a lot of time doing a lot of business above 37. The tape was quite heavy yesterday, despite there being very, very, very low volume on the NYSE. We still seem to see quite a bit of larger business being done, and that business itself is being done above that 37 level. So as we continue into today, yesterday wasn't a true inside day. Yesterday wasn't a true, inside day is just a natural balance day, but it's going to play like that. So I'm going to look at it as being an inside day, as being that consolidation. So keep in mind always that markets go trend to balance and then either continue the trend or will reverse trend, right? So as we went into balance yesterday, I'll kind of look and see if maybe today we get that follow through and a continuation higher. Now, we had spoken yesterday about NQ and how I thought NQ was going to be kind of a leader here as we continue through this week, and simply being, we have this one trend line, this purple line here, which they had battled back and forth, for quite some time. They failed it. We talked about 5 times yesterday and finally broke above it, late yesterday in the Globex period. And then through the day, we came back, tested a support and have now found support. So NQ's, ultimate target is well above that 500, 590 area into that 600 area, which would be the upper half of that range. So if the potential is there for NQ to start moving, up into those price points, you have to think that the potential is there for that to drag the ES with it. One thing I would watch for today, though, as we're coming in, is RTY generally has failed above this level here. So RTY has made, its all-time high way back here in March. And then we had the pullback, so on and so forth. We kind of found ourselves in just one big consolidation period. So this is a really good, illustration of what trend to balance would look like in a good market. The market went trend, broke above that 1600, went trend all the way up, and then found, what would be, pretty much this entire year so far of balance. The market went, higher, pulled back, retested it, pulled back, retested it, over and over and over again, and just found itself in a balance range. So one thing I want to monitor with RTY is if it has the ability to break above, break above this 20 area and actually go. Each time it's broken above this 20 area, here, and here, it has found a real lack of buying enthusiasm. And, based off of that, the market has pulled back. So that's one thing I'll watch. RTY and NQ have had pretty good rotations out of each other, into each other. So we'll see if that continues. If they can line up today, and get on the same path, I think you could be in for a pretty good day to the upside. With the ES, ES being the primary market that I trade, what I'm looking for is if there's going to be an enthusiastic move away from this value area. Now, we talked about this value area this week already a couple times. It's been very important to me. One thing I did mention, I still say true to, is if we do break out, do I want to fade the first day? Probably not. Had we have broken out yesterday on a 1, 2, 3 type trend day or trend days, I probably would have faded that late. If this is the breakout, I want to go with that breakout. And I know that's hard to do at times because you're at the all-time high. But nonetheless, if it's breaking away from this value area after, pulling away to the downside and then coming back into it and then finding balance yesterday and then finally break out, I think it's definitely a trade that you, excuse me, it's definitely a trade you want to be with early. Now, if we trend today, trend tomorrow, maybe a fade Sunday, evening into the Monday open that might materialize, but there's not much point looking that far ahead. Let's just trade what's going to be in front of us today. And as it looks right now, the potential is there for this to get moving if they do in fact break above yesterday's high, and any pullback into yesterday's high is held. So yesterday played well as far as fading into 49. And then buying into, our level down here, 28, 25 area. Today, I'm going to be looking for the open and go, right? I want to see how we're going to respond above these highs. So Tuesday's high, and then the Globex session, and then yesterday's high. I want to see how we respond in that area. Keep in mind our value area highs are quite close to each other. So the market could pull back, below 49, 45, 46 area and find that supportive bid, in which point you want to be, paying attention to the tape and then seeing if somebody is in fact getting trapped on the DOM. And if so, go with that trade, go with the inventory. If you are somebody who pays attention to people getting trapped, keep in mind on trend days, you will see, participants get trapped on the upside or downside, doesn't matter which way it's trending. And that can give you a false lead. So if you throw a trade out against, say, just for illustration purposes, let's say we trend up today. Early on, you get trapped buyers around 60, 62, which is quite possible if they do move up in that direction, being it's just above our all-time high. If that trap buyer comes in threes or twos very, very close to each other, and then you break above it, do not look to always fade that, right? You probably will fade it the first time if that's part of your strategy. I do, because it is part of my strategy. But if and when that fails, you need to be able to switch sides right away and go with the fact that, what we talked about in the TradeUp webinar, you can have an opportunity to watch that if you want. It's on YouTube still. Is that gives more fuel to the fire for potential to the upside. So today, I'm going to monitor how we respond to 58. I do know, despite this aggressive move in Globex, I do know that the all-time high is played as very strong support, and I would continue to trade against the all-time high, meaning I would fade against the all-time high until the market tells me to do otherwise. And likewise on the downside, if we open and pull back, I want to check, that 44, 45, 46 area, which will line up kind of with our last 2 days highs, and kind of sit on our last 3 session, 4 session, including this Globex sessions, value area high, and see if they can find a supportive bid there for an opportunity to get on long for the attempted break of the all-time high. But I think all the markets will play into each other today. So I think it's important to monitor what's going to happen in NQ. NQ has found support above that trend line. That's very bullish for NQ. Obviously, all-time highs. R2I, if R2I can find support above the 20 level, so 2320 level, and really get a bid, then that's also very bullish. And likewise, if we can get above our all-time high and find a bid, that's bullish. Now, the backside of that is to always recognize that, one, NQ is rotated with R2I. So if NQ spikes up and R2I goes lower, there's really no change between those two markets, and you should trade them as is, which would be, R2I failing yet again at that 2320 level, and looking to fade with that if that does in fact happen. And likewise, that may put ES into a balance range. So pay attention to volume today, pay attention to your ranges and your levels today. And execute kind of where you want to execute. I mean, that's my plan. That's where I plan to do my business. And if it gives me an opportunity, that's the way I will. So with that being said, thanks for jumping on, and have yourself a great and wonderful trading day.